unfortunately, I don't want to use the word deplorable. Because
if it must be said, say it. Say it as it is.
Because their complaint is that they're not funded. They don't get enough funding, so it makes them. They're unable to do what they ought to do. That's their complaint. But I think I don't know what to say. But I think they're not doing very much. It's unfortunate. When this thing happened. What we heard was that is unfortunate. It's like you're in your father's house. Your father has given you a room, and then he comes to say that he needs his room. What would you say? That was what that's the situation they find themselves in.
But why should we be so worried even about our parks and gardens? Are Ghanaians interested in safeguarding the parks and gardens anyway? Sometimes you take that detached approach and you begin to ask yourself,
it's important. We should be concerned, because from day one, our former president Kwame Nkrumah was the one who instigated this particular project. He took about 10 acres of land and made it. It was under a ministry, and put it under a cabinet minister. That is how important it was. And in our plan, as a city, I know that there were designated open spaces for parks and gardens. That's how important it is.
And it seems that importance has been lost. But let me come to Madam Awula Serwah, who is the coordinator of Eco-Conscious Citizens Ghana. For you, what would you say have been your observations when it comes to environmental degradation in Ghana? And I would have you maybe focus on such areas as deforestation, sanitation challenges, desertification, climate change. With that one, you have to do your little bit to try to control, and maybe single-use plastic, whichever areas you want to start them from.
Well, I'll just say we are not showing a great degree of seriousness regarding our environment. Even if we say we are Christians, in Genesis, the Lord asked us to take care of our environment. We don't seem to be serious at all. If we're interested in our environment, why would we fell 140 trees and destroy about 5,000 plants? There's a lack of seriousness. And as Ayenley also said, Kwame Nkrumah saw the importance of parks and gardens. Trees purify the environment. They are there for our well-being. And that's why he set up parks and gardens under a cabinet minister Okansi. Over the years, parks and gardens have been downgraded into a department. And it's now currently...
Department of Parks and Gardens.
Yes, and it's now under Ministry of Local Government. That shows the lack of importance that we've given it. Now, to go back to what we're talking about, you're talking about deforestation. Hello, if you keep on felling trees and not planting any, why wouldn't you have deforestation? We've seen what's being done in India. We've seen what's being done in Ethiopia. We've seen Malaysia, Singapore. You've seen sensible countries who realize that we need to protect our environment, and trees are the first port of call. But what I want to say is that on paper, we have all the regulations we need. But the difficulty is that we don't want to enforce them.
Ghana.
And if you refuse,
at what point are we going to get better? Because it appears everything in Ghana, we have the best laws. Interestingly, acts, laws, this and that. When you go across the African continent, we have the best.
But laws are only as good
implementation.
And what I'm saying is that long before President Akufo-Addo talked about not being spectators, but being active citizens, we've been active citizens. I go to LADMA, the Ladade Kotopon Municipal Assembly, I don't know how many times, just to try and get them to do what they are supposed to do. But there's this either indifference or refusal to do what they should do. You're talking about sanitation. Yes, if everybody has is forced to have a modality for having your waste collected, then you're not going to use the gutters. There's the modality to do so. We refuse to do it. You look at places of convenience. You cannot build a house without a place of convenience. People do so. What do the authorities do? They just nod by, maybe get something to their pockets, and that's that. So what I'm saying is that we can solve all the problems today if we want to, or begin the first step. It can be done, but it's the will. And sadly, I don't think the will is there. You're talking about plastics. What is stopping you, like other countries have done, from banning single-use plastics?
And those are the concerns. I remember some time ago when I was in Brazil, they were trying to do something of the sort. The single-use plastics, in fact, I know in South Africa, it's been an issue there as well.
Kenya has banned single-use plastics, or at least plastic bags.
Now we're talking about a green revolution, and this morning that's one of the bits that we're actually looking at. Can we green Ghana when we talk about a green revolution? And basically, if it is indeed possible, what are the best practices around the world that we can actually emulate? I'll come back to you, Madam Awula, on this one.
To me,
yes.
Well, I would say that the first thing we need to do is we had a department called Town and Country Planning, which is now been renamed Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority. We asked Lands Commission to give us the list of designated parks and open spaces in Accra. Because if you're really interested in the green revolution, you need to, first of all, know where your green spaces are so we can protect them.
Okay.
Lands Commission sat on the letter for 1 month and then told us that, go to land use and spatial planning. We've been there. A letter was handed in on 15th July. To date, we can't get this information.
15th July of this very
2019.
Month? Okay.
So we're talking about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Now, in every, let me choose my words carefully, every well-run organization that I know, this is a very simple request. You used to be town and country planning. So if you've really planned and mapped up the area, you know where the parks and open spaces are. So what's the difficulty in providing the list?
The problem could be that they've not actually mapped out the area or done the
well, then if they
things
haven't
that
mapped it out, then we have a bigger problem
than
than we think we are. But even I have a list of some of these areas. It's public knowledge and it should be accessible. So if you say that, are we ready? We can't be ready if we have not mapped out in the first place. And I know we have. So why is it that there's difficulty in providing the list? I think go figure, as they say. Second of all, as I said, we can also use our building regulations. You don't get a building permit unless you can show that you're going to plant trees in front of your house and in your compound. There's so many things we can do to start the green revolution if the political will is there.
This morning on the show, as we cap it all off, we're trying to restore Ghana to its primeval or prime, state. Restoring Eden. That is what we're doing this morning. And we're talking about greening Ghana and some of the things we ought to be looking at in getting ourselves there. We complain about the flooding and everything. If we did the right things, sanitation-wise, dealing with plastic, greening the country, some of those problems would be a thing of the past. Let me come to Ethel on this.
Annually.
Oh, yes. Okay. Ethel Ayenley Tosu. You see, right now I'm trying to be cautious.
But you're doing very well. You pronounced it very well.
I have to be smart on this one, else you'll finish me on this. So let's look at this. What policy suggestions basically has your group come forward with, Eco-Conscious Citizens Ghana, that you can share with Ghana and Ghanaians in general? Apart from, now you see, we've been talking about the administrators, those in authority. How about ordinary people? What can you share with us?
Yeah, this is great because I think we can individually plant trees. If we have small spaces in our homes, we can plant trees like fruit trees like sweet apple, what we call
the soursop,
It's
mangoes.
not a big tree. Mangoes are big trees. That's if you have space, enough space. But these trees, these fruit trees, are smaller, and you can control the height or how big or how wide they go. They don't need big lands, and they benefit. You will benefit because you eat the fruit, and I hear the soursop, the leaf is good.
It's medicinal.
It's medicinal.
Absolutely.
So you get both benefits, and then it purifies your surroundings, your air. Yeah.
So these are some of the benefits. Apart from the soursop, I don't know, pear trees.
There's this one we call sweet apple. In Ghana, we call it
Aluguntugui.
Aluguntugui is the
Aluguntugui is the soursop.
And then ngaire is a very small, round, and is like checkered, but very sweet. Has a lot of seeds in it. And it's very sweet. You can have it. It doesn't, it doesn't shed so much leaves or making your compound dirty. But you can always, gather the leaves.
And the leaves can be used for compost. Yeah.
And then it covers, the ground. It doesn't need that much water.
Wow.
So we can all do,
So step one, greening Ghana 101. Let's all start growing trees.
Absolutely.
And there are smaller ones that will not inconvenience us too much. Let's look at the cultural and environmental protection. But let's start from culture. It appears that has not been too much. It has not been ingrained in us when it comes to culture. Having a lot of greenery around us. Would you say?
I beg to differ.
You beg to differ.
When I was growing up, there was a lot of people planted. I mean, even small gardens. Everybody had something at their backyard.
But it's interesting you say when you were growing up, Madam Tosu. What is the situation now? Are young people, are they, do they have that mentality?
It's because of the new, I would think that things have, we've got this concrete mentality now. As Sister Ayenley said, she's quite right. When we were growing up, there was greenery. But over, I don't know how many years, we seem to think that the way forward is just to have concrete buildings, apartment buildings as high as we can, pave everywhere, forgetting that when you pave everywhere, where is the water going to go?
We're building concrete jungles.
Concrete jungle. I've said that Accra is
Sure.
becoming a concrete jungle, and this is something that we've sort of misunderstand things. We go abroad, and I don't really know what we observe, because even when we go abroad, we'd see that every community has a park. Every so many houses, there's a park. What we have at Parks and Gardens is an apology of a park. If anybody has seriously seen a park, you have acres upon acres. So it's a change in mentality. And I think the green revolution can start today. Each individual can take their own step. I'm going to plant a tree today. We did it under Isla Environmental Group. Not only did we plant trees in our own courtyard, we planted trees in the neighborhood.
As we cap off the conversation, let's quickly do this. And maybe we should just reiterate for people what the real consequences are of where we are headed. Now, our fish nowadays, you go to catch fish and you catch a lot of plastic. And you find the fish themselves and there's plastic inside them. There are so many problems that we're facing now, and I don't know, sometimes I even get worried about forget the next generation, our generation, right, to get to a point where you are trying to consume fish and all you are getting is plastic. All these dynamics we're talking about, we need to green Ghana, but what briefly do you have to say when it comes to plastic and dealing with them as we wrap up on the show?
I would say ban single-use plastics.
Okay.
And make sure that in shops, you don't get plastic bags. Take what we used to do in the past. Take your basket, take a life bag. There's no need to take plastic bag. Just ban single-use plastics. That is the first step.
Okay. Any to share?
Individually, we can also choose not to use them. Because I go to the market and I refuse to be served in any plastic because I take my bags along.
Reminds me of that song, Kubolo, it is refuse, reuse, recycle.
Yes. So I think individually we can start, and I think that the problem is big.
It's global,
and it's global. And I've seen a few documentaries elsewhere where people have made efforts. I mean, areas, communities have made efforts. They have some nets they put in waterways to, trap the plastic.
Yes.
We are not doing very much. I don't know. I don't know.
So individually and at a governmental
collectively,
level,
we can do this.
We can do it. We can make a difference
if
the will to make a difference.
So I think we should just end on this note. Yes, we can, can't we? Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
And we have a petition. And we'd encourage listeners to go onto the petition and sign it so that we can encourage the authorities to take our parks and gardens seriously.
I'd like this. No, please finish.
Yeah, I was going to just say that if you go to the link, you just go to change.org.uk and you look at petition to the president, and I'll send the link to the station for listeners who are interested. Thank you.
Okay, so that's change.org.uk, and of course you can connect from there. So they can sign the petition directly from there.
Yes, they can sign online.
Okay.
Look at petition to President Akufo-Addo, Parks and Gardens.
Okay. So the Eco-Conscious Citizens Ghana has been in the studio this morning on Restoring Eden. We've been talking about greening Ghana. Madam Awula Serwah is the coordinator, and Madam Ethel Ayenley Tosu, Manyano correct, is also in the studio. Thank you so very much for coming through. I'd like to thank the man, Quality Obuade, for facilitating all of this, making it happen. Ladies, thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you very much.
On this note, thank you. This is how I cap it all off on the Executive Breakfast Show. But coming up now is the news. It's something past 10 o'clock, actually, 2 past 10. Jema Apia is here with the update. Jema, what's new?
So President Akufo-Addo